And welcome back to another Think With Me Thursday. I'm Justin, your host here at Effective. Today, we're going to do something pretty fun, I think, something I haven't done in quite a while, which is to take a look at Logseq or Logseq. Let me know if you know how that's pronounced because I have no idea. But we're going to take a look at it live on stream here today. I've literally spent probably less than an hour with the application. I've been doing most of my work inside of Obsidian, but I keep hearing people talk about just how cool and awesome Logseq is. So I wanted to spend a little bit of time today on stream talking about that. If you're joining us on YouTube, there is a poll in the chat. If you've used Logseq before, be sure to let me know what your favorite thing about Logseq is. We've got a couple of different options there, primarily the outline format, that it's a fully open source application, the PKM capabilities of it overall, including the plugins and the ability to link together in an outline format similar to Roam Research, or if there's something else that you love about it. Before we dive into the app, though, a couple things that you can now do to support the channel here at Effective. First and foremost, if you just want to send a question or an article that you want us to check out during one of these Think With Me Thursdays, you can shoot one over as a super chat. Additionally, we now have channel memberships live. So if you want to be a super subscriber, it's kind of a goofy name that Google didn't consider in the process of all of this. But if you want to become a channel member, there are two different options there for you. It would be great to have you on board to support continuing to make videos here at Effective. But with that, we're going to dive right in. Welcome to the stream today, and I'm going to bring up a couple things on screen. That's the help file. I just wanted to take a quick look through the website. Again, I don't even have Logseq installed on this machine at this point, but just going to browse through the site a little bit here. I'm going to get it installed, and then we'll start playing around with it. One thing that's really neat about Logseq is that you can use Markdown or org mode for it. If you're not familiar with Emacs org mode, it's probably one of the most popular ways to manage knowledge outside of some of these more recent PKM apps. And that's just because it's extremely powerful. The one downside with that, though, is that org mode is very difficult to use on mobile devices. I know there are a few apps on Android and like one on iOS that do okay with it, but it's been a little bit more difficult to find one. So now seeing that Logseq has an app, being able to use org mode files inside of there to access it through Logseq, I think would be a really interesting thing for people who use Emacs. I am not one of them. I'm a Vim guy, but we're not going to get into that debate today. All right. So the other thing that I really am interested in with Logseq compared to Obsidian, I know you can use the two of them together, but I really like the idea that Logseq is it's fully open source. So Obsidian obviously is not fully open source. The developers have said they're not going to make it open source, which I think their reasoning for that makes sense. It can be really difficult to monetize a consumer open source product, and Obsidian has handled that quite well. I think they've made it sustainable. I know Logseq is just taken a bunch of venture capital funding, which is cool. I'm interested to see where this takes them, like in the long run, as far as monetization and being able to crank on it going forward. It's a little different in the consumer landscape for open source versus the business landscape for open source. If you sell a business software, it's a lot easier to open source it, say something like Discourse or even WordPress, than it is to and make money off of it, because you can sell hosting, you can sell services, things of that sort, because businesses have money to spend. Consumers don't always. And so the other thing that's interesting about this is just the similarity to Roam Research, but it seems to be quite a lot more extensible, and it's also local too, which I appreciate. And then the task management features, I think, are kind of interesting that I hope to take a look at today as well. With that, I'm going to download the app. Apparently, I'm on an M1 Mac, so I have to go here. And we'll just get it installed real quick. If you're just joining in the chat, let me know what PKM app you're using right now. Like I mentioned, I primarily use Obsidian, but I'm interested in checking this one out. I know Santa Younger has done a bit with Logseq, including integrating both Obsidian and Logseq together. I haven't quite figured out if that's something that I want to do yet, but we can take a look at a tweet thread that I found that explains how you can do that. I'm going to go Logseq. I feel like I'm pronouncing that differently every single time that I say it. All right. I'm just going to close out of this one here. I've got the docs open up as well, so we can take a look at that if we need to. Demo graph. Okay. I'm not going to dig too much into the demo stuff today, but maybe we will a little bit. Let's open that full screen. One thing I want to do, though, is I want to pop this to light mode. It's just a little easier to see on stream for everybody. So we're going to do that. While we're in here, I'm just going to poke around through the settings. It's one of my favorite things to do when I first start exploring an application, because you can get an idea of some of the power of something. As I'm already seeing over here, it looks like there are some shortcodes that you can use to do stuff. So let me see if I can press TT. Okay. TT changes the theme. Cool. All right, editor. I'm going to stick for my playings around with Markdown. I don't really know the org mode file format. I'm going to change my date format, though, to match what I do elsewhere. Okay, that's fine. It's a little bit of a goofy workflow. Now, this is interesting. If you're going to do any sort of task management inside of Logseq, you can choose between a workflow where you do like now, later, and done, or to do, doing, and done. So it's more of a Kanban flow versus a, this is what I'm going to work on now. This is what I'm going to work on later. I'm going to stick with the now, later right now. I'm going to turn on the spell check. No, I'm not going to restart it right now. Tooltips, yes. Shortcut tooltip. Time tracking, I think that's interesting. I'll have to look in the docs to see more about that. You can turn on encryption. I'm gonna stay away from that one right now because we're just keeping things local. Version control. This is cool to see this built straight into Logseq. I know there's the Obsidian Git plugin, but if you wanted to use Git for version control on your notes, this is really, really nice to have. You can auto commit all your changes. Plugin system, auto updater, cool. So nothing crazy in here. I'm guessing most of the other changes take place elsewhere. I am going to create a brand new graph. And I'm just gonna create it, Logseq demo. Again, there I go, pronouncing things very differently. I'm gonna turn it down a little bit. It's nice to have the background music around, but I'll turn it down just so it's not super loud. Sorry about that. If it's still too loud, I can turn it off. Okay, so here I have Logseq opened up. Logseq demo. All right, so just looking here. Journals, Logseq, pages. Just trying to get an idea of what's here. Cool. All right, so where to start? Where to start? So we've got flashcards. This is interesting. So you can tag things as a card. Okay, so it's like Anki a little bit, right? Built inside. That's interesting. What is a closes or close? I see. Okay, you have to fill in the blank. That could be really helpful if you're trying to study and learn something. Not something that I do all that much. Graph view. Oh, I just went into the flashcards again. All pages. Okay. Seems to be interesting. Journals, like daily notes and Obsidian. Page graph. Okay, contents page graph. Help. Cool. Seems fairly straightforward to get going with. I'm going to dig into a couple things before I start poking around with taking notes and stuff in here. I'm going to take a look at these plugins. Directory. Marketplace. It seems like this is where there's a lot of power with Logseq, and apparently I can't scroll on here right now. Let's use that. All right, this is kind of cool. Definitely one of the big things about this, both Logseq and Obsidian, is the extensibility of it. That makes it very, very powerful. Yeah. But there's even a bunch of power in it right out of the box. So that's something very interesting. Matt was making mention earlier in the chat before the stream started on YouTube, a bunch of things that I found really interesting. I can't pull them up on screen right now just because they didn't pop into Restream. But outlining and embed options, YouTube annotating, that is something that is very interesting. Typically, how I do things inside of Obsidian is I'll embed the YouTube video and then take notes on that directly inside of there. But it sounds like being able to do some stuff with YouTube videos while you're watching them would be really, really interesting. Okay, so there's some interesting things in here. Themes. All right. We'll take a look at that in a different spot. You can reindex, create a new window, new page. Okay. I'm just gonna. Apparently, my mouse just decided to freak out again and lose its scrolling capability. That's super fun. Then that happens midstream. All right, let's think of something that we can take some notes on here. Hey, Torin, welcome to the stream. Glad you're able to catch it live. All right, so like I mentioned, I literally haven't messed with Logseq before at all. I am just playing around with this today. So if there's anything you think I should be trying out or anything you are interested in me taking a look at, let me know in the chat. It seems like Logseq and Obsidian go really well together. I have to do a little bit of thinking on workflow for that, but I'm just going to start hitting through the docs here. All right, Matt's telling me look at the backlinks. Yeah, and this is one thing I really liked about Rome was the ability to filter these backlinks. I'll be honest with you, I almost never use backlinks inside of Obsidian, even unlinked references. I just never really got into it. It seems like in Rome and Logseq, they are very much a core part of the experience. And in Obsidian, it's kind of like, I use more the local graph for that kind of information. Torin is saying I use Logseq for my log and initial notes and Obsidian for my main work app, along with my main writing tool. I could see that working quite well, actually. Being able to, I'm much more of a bullet style thinker. I like writing things short. I mean, bullet journal for me is kind of the way I kind of get through things in my day sometimes. I don't like to write long, elaborate paragraphs about things that I'm just processing through. I like to go short bits of information and then go from there. But starting from bullets seems like it might be interesting, and then building out into more longer form pieces inside of a writing tool like Obsidian could be really interesting, an interesting workflow. All right, I'm gonna go back here. I'm just gonna do. Okay. Nice. No, that's kind of interesting though. Oh, okay, I see. That's why. That's kind of a goofy way to handle things, where you can write something as like to do, but it shows up as to do and later, or to do and doing when you have the default schema in your graph set to be the now, later, done side of things. Just it doesn't quite fully make sense to me, but the choice is kind of nice as well. All right. Created a new graph already. Journals page. This is something that I do like about this style of PKM app is it's inherently tied to chronology. I find one thing that's interesting using Obsidian is the daily notes plugin there. I mean, it makes sense, but it feels a little weird. It feels like it's kind of chunked into it. You really have to make that the center of your workflow over there. But having Logseq built out around the journals function, and then kind of you use that as your launching point, I think that's interesting. I also really like the idea of being able to just click into a bullet and focus in on it. So, what are some first thoughts? Or just some things that I've been talking about here. Torin is saying, I prefer to using Logseq for some of my task management as it doesn't strike out the whole block like Obsidian when it's done. That is also something that I find interesting about Logseq. I'm pronouncing that differently every time still, you know? Is that was something that I was experimenting with in Rome when I was using that a couple years ago. It's cool, but yeah. Topi, I can relate to your words too. I'm not a graphomaniac at all, mostly short bullet thinker, so we'll continue to watch your experience with it. Yeah. I think this will be interesting. To be clear, I used Rome Research for about 3-4 months early on before I made the jump over to Obsidian, and I really liked it. I liked the format. I liked the ideas behind that, but various reasons I decided to not continue using Rome. I really like outlines. It tends to be how I think through creating content, and also just getting stuff out of my head. A lot easier to just zoom through a sentence, come on to the next thing, and then if you need to come back and flesh it out, you can. Linking pages, yep, pretty basic stuff. Indentation, linked references, filtering, block references. All right, so I'm going to go into this Logseq page. Okay, what is this filters thing? Let's find out. I also love how media it plays in the linked references. That's very handy. Hermanth. Like 50 different tabs open right now, most of which are your videos on Obsidian and a few others, and every time I try to sit down and watch them, just going off. Is this ADHD? How can I deal? That I'm not sure. I'm unfortunately not able to comment on if that's the case. However, probably one of the biggest things that I can say is try to step back a little bit and understand like what's going on. I know there's a lot to learn, and it can be really easy to get overwhelmed with Obsidian and PKM, Logseq, and all the different tools. And he's clarifying a little bit later. We're clarifying a little bit later here. Clicking on something else, distracted mind, unable to get it done. I would spend a little bit of time asking yourself too, like, why am I resisting this? Is there something else do I feel this is like painful or overwhelming? Is there something that is causing me challenges to approaching this? That's something to just keep in mind. Just take a step back and figure out why, maybe, or just do some reflecting on why that might be the case. There's a lot to learn in this space, to be honest with you, and it's also relatively new. I mean, PKM has been around for a long time, but we've really only been talking about it, and it's really only gotten traction in the productivity circle that I would say, or call it, in the last 2 years. And that's almost solely due to Rome Research and then Obsidian coming along. So there's a lot to learn, a lot to know. Don't get overwhelmed. It's okay. I'm just going to write some categories or ideas about Logseq here. It's open source, outliner, Let's see, what else? PKM tool. Yeah, let's see. Torn mentioned previously, you can have an entry, then add something underneath it a few hours later. I love that. So much easier to do that in an outline format. And then also, you mentioning it's what I feel, very overwhelmed by the magnitude of things. I'm excited to learn PKM, deep learning, neuroscience, programming, math, freelancing, college, and family. Yeah, you have a lot there. That's a lot of stuff. So maybe one thing that I would consider a recommendation for you is maybe commit to 1 to 3 of those areas in the course of 3 months, because you can't chase it all at once, but you can chase a small number or one of those things well. You'd be very surprised if you spent your free time focusing on neuroscience or deep learning for 3 months and then just start taking notes on it. I also, in the PKM space, would advise anybody who's just getting started, don't worry about going too deep into applications. Don't worry about going too deep into how the heck you do things and keep track of things. If you just start taking notes, link them together, and then follow those links in the future, you're going to be just fine with it. It's very easy to get overwhelmed with stuff going on here, but don't worry about it. Just pick one area you want to dig into, start taking notes on it, and go from there. Let's see here. My chat is kind of being ridiculous today. Meaning Restream's kind of ridiculous today. I do like how Logseq is very private. That's the other reason that I like Obsidian. You can keep it straight on your machine. You don't have to upload it to some SaaS service that you don't know what they're going to do with the data. Matt's saying you can edit inside an embedded block that contains all the child content. Okay, let's try that out. Block embed. What's interesting about Logseq? Okay. Oh yes, that is pretty sweet. I'll just keep that embedded here. What if you're not trusting your machine? Well, then maybe you need to run some virus scans on it or something. I don't know. I don't know how to answer to that one. Air gap it so it's not connected to the internet at all. Hey, no worries. I mean, really don't worry about it. It's that's part of the reason why I do these streams. We talk about cool PKM stuff. We look at applications and workflows and talk about neat things, but in reality, I'm here to help. I'm here to help you. And so if there are questions like this, that's definitely not off topic. And so anytime that we can help talk through PKM or productivity strategies, and really that's what that is. That's a kind of a productivity related question. Like, how do I even stay on task or on focus? So don't worry about bringing us off topic. That's a very relevant question. You mean it can be burned, like as in physically destroyed? Yeah. So that is the unfortunate reality in my of the world. I wish we could just have everything be permanent. And yes, notebooks suffer the same consequences It's just something. So, I mean, if something's super, super, super important, you always need to have multiple copies of it, or it needs to be in a place where the likelihood you have to mitigate the risk of it being damaged. And that's why backups are important. Very important. Yeah, so I'm already just kind of fleshing out thoughts and processes on this here, but I think a lot of the linking and embedding is way more powerful than Obsidian. All right, I'm just gonna hit this / command. I'm gonna do it up top so it's not so far down on the screen. Page reference, page embed, block reference, block embed, link, upload an asset, headings, dates, priority. Okay, that's helpful. Advanced, YouTube timestamp, Twitter tweet. All right, this is the tweet I was talking about earlier. Yeah, I don't need all the reference there in the link. Cool. Yeah. That is slick. I love that. So much fancier, really, in a lot of ways. Can I just move it down like this? Yes, that. I like that. Keyboard shortcuts. PDF annotating is worth exploring. If I can find a good PDF, I will take a look at that. I've done that a bit inside of Readwise. With their, I'm in the reader beta, and that works actually quite well. Go to home, go to journals, go to all pages. Okay. Toggle flashcards, go to tomorrow, next journal previous. I'm gonna get off of that because that's freaking me out to have it in the peripheral. Toggle help, open blocks. Sometimes when you copy PDF highlights to Logseq, it sometimes completely jumbles the words together without spaces, which is a drawback. Yeah, that would be a bit of a frustration for sure. I'm going to see if I could just find a... Whoops. Wrong one. I'm just going to look on my system real quick to see if I can find like an ebook or something like that. PDF annotation. I've written like 3 of them. You'd think I'd maybe have one. All right. Okay. This is interesting. It's a little goofy UI here, but it's probably because I have the window minimized some. Yep. We'll just pop this open full screen then for now. Yeah, so I see what you mean there, Torin, about this. It can be a little goofy. But it's really cool how it just pulls it straight over into a bullet. I like that a lot. If they could refine highlighting and pasting the highlighted reference to your note. Okay, copy reference. Oh. Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. Fancy. Oh. Not what I wanted to do. Oh, something. Gotcha. Okay. Messed that one up. Oh, funny. I'm just gonna try copying that text and see what happens. Yeah, it's just the goofiness of the OCR. I like that. Page 3 shows where it's from. Copy reference. I'm just gonna go home for the day. Pretty fancy. Yeah, I love the fact that that's a bookmark, that you get the... Oh, okay. I see what I did there, but I'm just gonna instead... Oh, interesting. I think I might be doing something a little goofy there, but... Oh, there we go. Okay. I just needed to click on that button to get that back. That's nice. You can change the view style of that. All right. Well, that's really fancy. I love the fact that you can pop a PDF in here, and if you can get the text out of the PDF, if it's been OCR'd or something like that, it'd be pretty easy to drop it in there. I don't know if Logseq does OCR. Well, that's not what I wanted to do. No, it doesn't look like it there. There might be a plugin for it or something like that, though. People seem to be interested in doing stuff like that. Oh, recurrence, cool. All right, I'm getting distracted now. So if you're just joining the stream too, we're digging into Logseq today. I have spent almost zero time with it, so I'm really just exploring what the software can do and just kind of feeling it out as it go. Matt's been awesome in the chat, pointing me to some cool things that you can do. One thing that I might try this on stream is to get an Obsidian Vault linked up to Logseq. By the way, if you're interested in supporting what we do here at Effective and these live streams, two ways you can do that. One, send a super chat through if you have a question you want to ask, or if you have an article that you want us to take a look at. Two, you can also be a channel member here on Effective. We've got a couple different options for you there. We'd appreciate you joining along, get your name shouted out on the stream as a member, and all of that. But definitely love to have you here as part of this live stream, whether you're supporting the channel directly or not. This is all about being a place that we can help each other with productivity, PKM, and such. Yeah, Torrent, I was actually on, or I joined in chat one of Santa Younger's streams a few weeks ago, and he had that set up, and that's what kind of piqued my interest with that. He had Logseq in a folder inside of his Obsidian Vault versus, yeah. So I think, I don't know. I'm kind of intrigued by doing that. Let me see about maybe bringing that up. I am just going to create a brand new vault. See what we can do. Yes, I want live preview. Okay, close the other one out. I want to bring it into light mode. Of course, I'm doing this the hard way instead of the command palette. Okay. Right. Okay, so I'm going to create a new graph. And this is going to be under my vaults folder, under Logseq and Obsidian. I'm going to hit open. All right. Journals, Logseq, pages folder should now be visible in the Explorer on the left. They are. Before you can start using Logseq and access all your files in Obsidian, some Obsidian settings need to be adjusted. All right, go Files and Links tab. We will scrunch this over. Default location to new notes in the folder specified below. You want to enter pages. Okay. New link format to relative path to file. Makes sense. Turn off wiki links to use markdown links for better compatibility. To properly manage attachments across Logseq and Obsidian. Same files and links in the folder specified below. For attachments, and we want assets. Right? Oh, geez. Sorry, folks. I wasn't looking at chat. I'll take care of it. Sorry about that, everyone. Should be hopefully taken care of now. Always annoying when that happens. All right. Thanks for doing that, Torin. All right, where were we at? Assets. Cool. Daily notes pages. So I've got to turn on the daily notes plugin. Then in the daily notes settings, okay. Journals. I'm going to avoid the outliner and zoom plugins right now, and then close Obsidian, open Logseq to make sure that the links to the daily notes page are compatible with Obsidian. All right, close Obsidian. Whoa. Open settings here, editor. Your month day. So we are going to reindex. Yes. Okay. Now, I guess here's a question. Yeah, I'll pop it in the chat here real quick. Minus all of the reference and query parameters on it. There's a tweet thread in the chat that points you to this tweet thread by Ramses about how to integrate Logseq and Obsidian together. One thing I am going to try, though, is I don't like the underscore date, but to me, it doesn't make any sense that we would have to use that because Obsidian automatically uses the dashes in a document. So I'm just going to try this, see if it works. I'm going to reindex the vault or the graph here again. All right, 0602. Nazar, is Logseq free for personal use? Yes, It is. In fact, it's fully open source. And welcome. Glad to have you on the stream today. Yes, fully open source is one of the things I really like about it is that it's free to use. You can download the source code if you wanted to, all of that. It's one of the beauties of it. I was just talking earlier on the stream of like, I totally understand why Obsidian's not open source and why the developers have tried to make it, because it's a little bit easier to monetize something that's not for a commercial or a consumer application. It's easier to make a consumer application monetizable when it's not open source. Let's put it that way. But that's not the case with Logseq. Journals. All right. So I see. That's why that is that case, because it generates the files with that, even if your data thing is set differently. That's a bit of a bummer that that's that way, but I get it. You want file consistency when you're dealing with it from a Logseq Obsidian journals. Yeah, I just think the underscores looks clunky to me, but so be it. Not a huge problem. Reindex Obsidian. So if I click daily note, we go to contents and then today's daily note. That works. All right. Well, that's really handy. So basically, at this point, Logseq is set up pretty well to work with Obsidian. That I might have to consider doing this inside of my existing vault, see if I can make that work. I have to think through it, though, if that's something I want to do or not. Anyway, I'm going to swap back over to this demo vault and see where we can go from here. Steelcase gesture behind you. How experienced with this chair? Yeah, I love it. It's actually one of the best chairs I've ever owned. What I think is neat about it is it's comfortable. I'm not a huge person. I'm 6 foot tall, so I'm relatively tall. But it's comfortable. Like, my legs have enough space. It's adjustable. I can adjust the depth of the seat if I need to. Every little bit about it is adjustable in a helpful way. One thing about the Steelcase gesture that I will say is if you want a headrest, order it with the headrest. Otherwise, it's kind of a nightmare to deal with. I actually, funny enough, I had to buy two because I had gotten one for work. Work had paid for it previously. I got one without the headrest, and I was finding that not having a headrest for working in a chair for 8 hours a day was actually causing me shoulder strain because I didn't have something that I could lean back into. And so I worked with my workplace, and we worked out an agreement where basically I personally acquired the old chair instead of, I was going to just sell it, but I decided to keep it anyway, and then paid the difference on the new one. And so I've got the gesture with the headrest back there, and it's significantly more comfortable for me. But yes, Logseq does support mobile apps. That is the other thing that's really interesting. I like Obsidian's mobile app. I don't use it all that often. But I also don't do a lot of longer form writing on mobile or even on iPad. I don't do that at the desktop. When I capture things from uh, my mind on a phone, I think I want to get down in as short of amount of time as possible. I really like using task managers for that because you can, it's just, I mean, it's a bullet is what it is. It makes sense to me to just jot something out as a bullet that I need to remember on the go, versus pulling something out and trying to dig through it and find the right note, find the right place and put it in there. So I could see the mobile app for Logseq being actually quite powerful in that uh, aspect of my workflow. Something that I'll have to look into, though. All right. Let's head home here on the help vault. Backlinks, knowledge graph. Let's take a look at the graph view. Pretty basic for right now, but you can search it, which is neat. Okay, nice. Can add in your journal pages as well, which is helpful. Built-in pages. I do have to say that I like this style of graph view more than Roam Research's style of graph view. I do like you can include deadlines. I'm gonna go here. Just say today. Yes, I can. Nice. Logbook, clock. Can schedule tasks, time tracker. Oh, let's try something. All right. Nifty. It just adds a time entry. That is really handy. Yeah, I can't use Rome's graph either. It's just the way it's thought through. It's just a little clunky for me. But being able to zoom in and zoom out and see things more like a network versus just a grid of networked nodes makes a lot more sense to me. This one is really, I mean, it's akin to Obsidian's graph view, and I think that's a perfect thing. I love Obsidian's graph view. I don't use the graph view in Obsidian all that much, but I do use the local graph view. That's where I think a lot of the power in Obsidian is with the local graph view. So one thing that I am interested in trying to check out, how do you... Okay, you just actually have to go in and hit done. All right. I am interested in like filtering to-dos, seeing how that works. I am just going to go create a random page. Not what I meant to do. And then to-do page. All right, we're going to do later. All Okay, that didn't actually work last time. Okay. Now, let's see. Promote channel memberships. Ah. All right, so and then I'm going to do now. Journals. All right, because that's what I want to figure out how to do. How do you bring all the to-dos together? I'd imagine it's some kind of filter. Or query. Do I have a specific template for daily notes in Obsidian, or do I just prefer a blank new note style? Actually, I've gone back and forth on this in a lot of different ways. I typically don't use a new daily note template. I've had one in the past when I was trying to use Obsidian as kind of my main project workspace and task management, things of that sort. After a while, it just kind of fell apart for me. I do like the flexibility of having the blank note there. What I like, what I'm looking at, and looking at Logseq, this is what I'm liking about this here. Obviously, you still have the same blank page, but there's two things that are constraints. One is the date. In Obsidian, obviously, you have that with a daily note. It's constrained by the date, what the note's about. But two, it's also bullets. You don't have to think in large, long form thoughts inside of here. So I like that about Logseq. But no, I don't really use a daily note template inside of Obsidian. Matt, you are just full of helpful stuff today. So thanks for being part of the stream here. You can turn any block into a template. That is amazing. So let me just, I do like just even like a checkbox. Well, let's just see. Let's do some Googling. Just want to see. Automated daily template. Logseq. Page where you store all your templates. That makes sense. Parent block. That is super easy. I love that. Nice. You can define a daily template for your journals. That's really handy. Property visualizers, habit trackers, smart blocks. Nice. I love that. I am just going to go back. Cool. I love that. That's powerful. I mean, Obsidian's templates are pretty powerful as well, but looking at the ability to just create a nested list like that somewhere and turn them into a template and pop them in is really, really neat. So you can create a daily template, like if you want to plan your day inside of Logseq or something like that. I'm just gonna pull this open full screen. Your agenda. Oh, geez. More spam. Sorry, folks. I wish there was just like one button that you could use to ban people. Anyway. Yuck. Well, that's kind of cool. Calendar plugin. What's annoying too is that there we go. Oh boy. Sorry, folks. Didn't mean to put that up on the screen. It's annoying. I'll get out. Spending more time on this stream actually ending spammers. May also try the blank note method. Currently, daily note template is too overwhelming and discourage me from entering daily info. Sometimes minimalism is the ultimate solution. Yeah, the way I tend to think about it is you can try to be really intentional with habits, but a lot of times when you set yourself in a direction of where you want to go, a lot of times you can build the habits more organically and naturally versus trying to force yourself into it. So that's what kind of I've been thinking about in regards to habits lately. So that's maybe I'll write that down. There's also this idea regarding consistency that I find a little challenging in regards to habits. A lot of times we see consistency as, oh, I've showed up every single day. I've done this thing every single day, whether it's lifting weights or writing or whatnot. And to me, that's too much. It's almost unrealistic to be consistent every single day with an activity. Sometimes consistency means showing up on a regular basis. Sometimes it means, maybe you showed up 5 days this week and 7 days next week, or 3 days the following week. We tend to look at consistency in terms of the short term instead of the long term. So where you might see every single day you didn't do something as a failure in the short term, if you show up 90% of days to do that thing in the long term, that's consistency in my mind. So that's something that I have been thinking through, also wrestling with, wondering about in regards to habits, because sometimes I know I can do this, so I'm sure other people can do it. Yeah, Torrent, exactly. Like this is my thing. Story here. I'll just go full screen for a second here. I tend to not like habit trackers because they do force you into showing up every single day for a thing. You have a streak that you have to break, or that you don't want to break. I had this habit that I was able to track for probably 180 days or more straight. And what's interesting about that is it was something that I was really motivated to do to start with. But then after 6 months, it became rote to me. The activity was less about me passionately pursuing this activity that I thought was valuable, and more about me wanting to complete the task of checking off the habit for the day. And it's because I didn't give myself any space. And so this is where I think habit trackers they're a positive thing, but they can go a little bit too far. Again, coming back to that idea of consistency over the long term. Consistency in the short term can look like, oh, I'm showing up 7 days a week this week, and I've done that for the last month. But that's not really where results are measured. Results are measured in the long term. So consistency over the long term can look like you showed up 90% of days that you decided you were going to do this thing, this habit, over the course of 12 months or 18 months. Maybe it's 80%. Maybe it's even 60%. But you were consistent over the course of time. And that's what I think ultimately matters, not the fact that you kept some habit streak up in an app or in a bullet journal spread or something like that. Anyway, that was a tangent. Tangent from Logseq. This is giving me some hints that under the hood, there's a lot of power inside of Logseq. You can do some cool stuff with it. Here we go again, everybody. Oh, geez, come on. Stop it. What am I doing? Restream. Don't make this very easy to do. Ugh. Keep putting it all on the all on the screen instead of actually blocking that stuff. I am really sorry about that. It's so annoying. All right. Nazar mentioning here recently seen a visual idea in social media displaying that consistency and frequency are not the same things. Yes, I agree. We tend to conflate consistency and frequency. We have to be frequent with something for it to be consistent. I totally agree that is not true. Torin saying one thing I like about Duolingo is they offer a freeze day if you don't do a lesson that day. Yeah, you should, habit apps or any type of habit tracking should be friendly to the person, because there are going to be days where you're not feeling good. Maybe you're sick. Maybe your life blew up that day, and there's just not room for it. Sometimes we put such I don't know, end all be all weight on top of habits that we have to. We have to show up and we have to do it every single day. Otherwise, we're not building that habit. It's just not true. It's the intention that matters, and it's the consistency over the long term that matters. Dr. Brad Davis, I've gone from Obsidian to Craft to Obsidian to Logseq to Obsidian, now back to Craft, having trouble sticking with one and struggling with the Notion. Tried that too, that it's okay to juggle. I like your little play on words there. Kind of made my day. Yeah, so switching back and forth between productivity apps is something that I struggle with quite a bit, actually. And part of it is because I just haven't found a workflow that makes sense to me. And sometimes it's an application limitation. Sometimes it's just something that I want to stick with. Obsidian is probably the app that I have stuck with the longest as far as note taking and productivity and PKM goes. But I've been back and forth on to-do apps and how I'm handling that. I've been into Sunsama, which I really love. And I think I'm going to try to cement that one more in my workflow just because I like the way it works. But then the underpinnings of that, the applications that I'm connecting up with, Sunsama, Todoist, I was using that one. I've kind of fallen off the wagon with that with my job change that's been happening. And then also, let's see. I've been using the bullet journal a little bit more lately. There's just so much up in the air for me right now, where it makes it a little bit difficult to try to hammer something down. I don't know what my workflow, my work state is going to look like in the next 3 weeks or so, and so I'm been hesitant to commit to something. That's kind of the biggest thing. And so I guess to talk about this Notion a little bit more, I think it's okay to switch back and forth as long as you're experimenting. If you just haven't found something that works for you, that's okay. Keep trying stuff, find something that sticks. If you're just switching back and forth because some new fancy feature looks good over here, or the software, you just kind of are going along with trends, then I would maybe take a step back and think about the decisions you're making about that, because there's a lot of cognitive load in switching between applications like this. But again, if you're just experimenting, you're trying to find a workflow that works for you, you're trying to find an application that makes sense, I think it's okay to be switching back and forth. That's really, really kind of the biggest thing for me. Jeez. I appreciate you all. You're full of the puns today. It's speaking my language. Dr. Bradsing, I'm currently using things with Craft and Fantastical to manage everything. A lot of different buckets with work and play and PKM. There is a lot of stuff. Yeah, if you've got work and personal stuff and PKM you're trying to do with, it probably makes sense to segment some of it, or to try to cross over the things that make the most sense. But yeah, it can be a little tricky. And it's true, you can't beat Obsidian plugins though for PKM. Though it seems like there might be some promise in Logseq. Log seeking. the right app. 100 on that one. That's top tier right there. Now I'm just kind of thumbing through the forum here to get some ideas what people are doing. Readwise plugin. Readwise is working on an official one. I'm a big fan of Readwise, by the way. If you haven't noticed that, it's been I just did a video recently on how Readwise has changed things for me, and it's been awesome. Project pages for task management. Current task manager, best in class for new generation network knowledge managers. Task management seems like it could be a little tricky here, but you do have to use a query for it. Matt says, I work from home and went for Logseq as it's free and didn't require a purchase order from IT and accounts. Yeah, that's a great reason to use it. Obsidian's license specifically says that you have to pay for it if you're using it for commercial purposes. Frankly, I mean, I don't really know what to say to that. I mean, it's kind of a weird, I've never seen a software have that kind of a limitation before. Like if you're a one single person using it and you're using it in a business that you have to pay for it. It's kind of a weird stipulation to put on it for a free app. It's kind of an on your honor system too. But Logseq seems really nice. Again, coming back to the fact that it's open source. I know that doesn't matter to everybody. It doesn't specifically matter to me either, but just the fact that it is open source, the project is out there, people are contributing to it. It's not something closed down behind a wall, proprietary. I think that's a really positive, happy thing. One of my, and again, I'm not saying this to downplay Obsidian at all, because I love Obsidian. It's still my favorite application. But one of my concerns with Obsidian long term is the fact that it's still really only run by two people, and there's two applications that are being run by two people, Dynalist and Obsidian. I don't know if they have any other people working for them, but I think it'd be really cool if they did, if they scaled that up, because I think they'd be able to do a lot with that. But that is a concern of mine long term. Though they have said that if they do need to shut down their work on Obsidian, that they would consider open sourcing it. I think that would be a wise choice if they did. As soon as Readwise releases an official Logseq plugin, I'll switch to that one and remove the one I have in Obsidian. Yeah, I think that'll be interesting to see. I think Readwise makes a ton of sense to have an Obsidian plugin. Just hands down, it makes a ton of sense because you have, the way Readwise syncs right now into Obsidian anyways, they use bullets. And so why not just sync into Logseq the same way using that? I think it makes a ton of sense to do that. Oh, interesting. I hadn't seen that, Torin, that they're kind of letting Dynalist slowly die. As they focus mainly on Obsidian. I haven't really followed along with Dynalist too much. I've tried it just a couple times. Yeah, it's pretty wild, though. Obsidian has seemed to be a bigger hit for them anyway, so that makes sense to focus their efforts on one thing. I've worked in a software company as well, Matt, and it's insane to see what Obsidian has done, the devs there have done with in just 2 years, really. just a little over 2 years. It's wild. But being an Electron application, being largely just a front end website in some regards, it makes it a lot easier to do that as well. All right. Let's just dive into the forum here a little bit more, see what we can find. Feedback, feature requests, plugins. Let's just go to latest. When I see stuff like this, I'm going to see this here, the long-term roadmap of whiteboarding. When I see that in an outliner software as something that they want to do, that gets me a little concerned. Everybody wants to be Miro. But unfortunately, not everybody can be Miro. It's, I don't know. I think this is where restraint is going to be really powerful for a lot of PKM apps. Being able to say no to certain popular feature requests that don't line up with a vision for a software or even the format of a software, I think is what's going to cause apps to stand out. For example, in the whiteboarder space, Miro really led the way with a lot of that. But now every single team productivity app is building a whiteboard like Miro in there. ClickUp being one of them that I can think of. Being able, having something like this in Logseq, I could see being an interesting thing, but it's kind of goofy, I think, to add it in there. You don't really want an app to become a kitchen sink, everything but the kitchen sink, because then the challenge you run into is, what is it? When people look at it, like, what is it? What do you use it for? You can use it for this. You can use it for that. You can use it for this. You can use it for that. It's just, this is one of the things that I'm actually concerned about in the PKM and productivity space right now, is because there's not a lot of laser focus. Everybody wants to be the next other thing. They look at everybody else and say, well, we need to have that feature too. This is one of my main concerns and also pieces of feedback for like Amazing Marvin. It's an interesting application, and if you look at this screenshot here, it looks really nice and tidy and very easy, but that app is, unfortunately, in my mind, a mess. It's very difficult to use, and I've tried just about everything out there. And this is one of the hardest productivity applications I find to use. There's a lot of power in it. You can do a lot of stuff, but everything's an icon. You don't really know what's what, how to do certain things. I thought there was a lot of potential in it when I was doing some research, but when I got in to actually use it, the user experience was just unfortunately not there. And this is what I'm concerned might happen with applications like Logseq, even Obsidian to some degree, and others in the space, that if we take it too far and just try to throw everything that we can in the app to get people to use our thing instead of the other thing over there, that proprietary all-in-one notion, I think, will ultimately kill a lot of good applications. And so if anybody develops stuff out there, keep that in mind. Throwing everything in one app is not always a good thing. Lazy Grizzly says Logseq, Dynalist, and Word are my go-to tools. That's a good little setup that you have there. I'd be interested to see and hear how you're using Logseq and Dynalist differently, them both being outliner type applications. Yeah, I think you're exactly right at that, Matt. That's why plugins are useful, as you can opt in or opt out as required. Plugins, I think, are the key component to it. If you can build a good core user experience and then build extra stuff in as plugins, not everybody is going to want a whiteboard. But if you can create a whiteboard plugin, then someone who does want it can integrate it. The other downside, though, of having plugins or just all of these extra extensions that don't necessarily coincide with the core modality of the main application is the fact that what am I trying to say here? The challenge with it is you have to start almost thinking about them as different products. And that's one of the challenges of it is you it's good to build a developer ecosystem. I think that's one thing that Obsidian and it seems like Logseq have done really well. They've built an ecosystem where developers can build third-party extensions. They're in charge of maintaining them. But in reality, they're kind of their own products. They need to be managed on their own channels and wavelengths. The developers of those need to decide what features belong in there, what does not, what bug fixes they need to prioritize with the limited development time that they have available to move on them. Because let's face it, these are often passion projects and they're not something that's going to be monetized in any sustainable sense because they're all open source projects. And so there can be challenges with that. I don't feel like I fully hit the point that I was trying to make there. But Torin's mentioning, like the Unix philosophy, each app should do one thing only and do it well. Yeah. That's something I really like as well too. The kitchen sink applications, like Obsidian is a super deep application. Logseq clearly is a super deep application. Same thing with OmniFocus. They're very deep, very powerful apps, but they focus on one thing. Obsidian and Logseq, they focus on note-taking. Obsidian in more of a long-term written format or long-form written format. Logseq in more of a bullet-style outliner format. And then OmniFocus fully being a task manager. It doesn't do notes. It doesn't do Kanban boards. It doesn't do anything. It's a GTD-focused task manager. Being able to stick to a concept like that does a big thing for your business. It allows people to understand what you do and who you are. And if you start to muddy those waters at all, that's where we get to have a problem. Lazy Grizzly uses Dynalist for capturing idea capture, Logseq for detailed breakdown and research, and Word for writing. Okay, that makes a ton of sense. Awesome. I'm glad that it's working for you. Torin is mentioning here too is why I don't really like Notion, especially with ADHD. There's too much it can do. Yeah, there's a lot of power in there, and unfortunately, I think there's too much that it can do, and there's so much that it can do, like 60% as good as the competition. I think task management is an example of that. More spam bots. Sorry, folks, again, to deal with this junk. But yeah, anyway, back to Notion. Notion is interesting. Task management in Notion is like, I don't get it. I've tried it before, but it just does not work very well at all. You've got to do so much manually. And it's the same thing in Obsidian, really, in my mind. If you try to do task management in Obsidian, you're going to have to do a lot of work to get it to work the way you need it to. Setting up data view queries and sometimes even custom JavaScript that I've seen other people do to get things to display correctly, or building custom plugins to get metadata to change in sync with each other. This is getting to be a little complex for something to actually use it. Joshua, been using Logseq for a couple of weeks, and I love the block paradigm combined with daily notes. It means I can just spam stuff in as I work and come back to it later and easily link everything. Yes, this is what I like about this. I mean, in my mind, it's very much correlated with the bullet journal's rapid logging, except it's in a digital format. You can hammer out a task, a note, an event, something that you want to talk about. You can flesh it out later if you want to. You can link to it. You can come back to it. It's so handy to be able to use something like that in an environment like this. So in my mind, Logseq, and really actually Roam too, but Logseq is a digital bullet journal on steroids. Notion is great, but I felt it was too much for me. Yeah, and really in a lot of ways, Notion is becoming more of a teamwork tool. Notion is awesome at wikis, basically. Like, if you have structured information you need to store in some place and you're not necessarily updating it every day, but you might be referencing it, or you might be building it out even further, Notion is awesome for that. Structured information like database tables and things of that sorts too. It's really great for that. But I think what has become challenging with Notion as well is because the community has really front loaded a lot of stuff that you can do into it too. And so there's a lot of stuff you can hack into Notion, but it's not always the best thing to do that. Torin, yeah, I would definitely recommend checking out bullet journaling. So for me, bullet journaling is really nice because I don't have to sit in front of a screen to do it. It can be a little difficult to keep up if you have a lot of tasks that you're tracking inside of it. Quite difficult, actually. I haven't found a good solid way to like manage projects and tasks and tie it all together inside of a bullet journal. It can get a little clunky to do, but for quick input, for noting down things that are going on, just noting down an event from the day, I love it. The rapid logging technique is really, really handy in my mind. The other plus to it too is that I've noticed my kids, they pick up on the instant that I pick up my phone, and they just kind of go wild. I don't know what it is, but it's just like my attention is completely somewhere else when I pick up my phone. But if I'm using my bullet journal and they're around, they're a lot more chill. So I'm not sure what it is about that, but it's something that I have been noticing. Joshua, I use Logseq over Roam because it's free and I'm a tech nerd, so I'm more than happy syncing everything across multiple devices for free with Git. Yes. Yeah, that'd probably be something I considered doing. I also use Dropbox, so Dropbox is there too. But yeah, that's not encrypted. Git is kind of cool to be able to do that. Torin, main thing I would probably use Notion for, especially things I may share with others. Yes, structured information, sharing it with others. I think that's really helpful. Yeah, I was just checking out the PDF annotations earlier, and it was really, really neat. If you didn't catch earlier in the stream, I was just kind of playing around with that for a couple of minutes, but you can feel free to scrub back and check that out. I am actually going to call it a day here in just a minute on the stream. It's been really fun to dive into Logseq together. I might spend a little bit more time investing into it, especially because a lot of my workflows are changing right now. And so I think it'll be helpful to do stuff like that. Um, Matt says his son's school has an iPad program and love him to start using network notes as a study tool. When my kids get to that point where they're going to be on their computers more for class, I honestly think using a tool like Logseq or Obsidian could really, really benefit them long term. If I had this kind of a note taking tool, even when I was in college 15 years ago, I think I would have really greatly benefited from it. Thanks for joining, Torin. Matt, thanks for the amazing tips today when going through Logseq. I enjoyed doing this stream too. Let's do it again sometime. I totally just clicked that off like super fast. Sorry about that. But really enjoyed having you all on the stream today. Again, if you want to support what we're doing here at Effective, you can always send a super chat anytime during the stream. You can also join and become a channel member that supports everything that we do here on the Effective YouTube channel. Also, if you're interested, we do have a free membership where we're planning on launching a newsletter. I'm just kind of trying to figure out what I am doing as far as workloads and what I can take on. I've got to figure out kind of what that's going to look like once I start a new job in the coming weeks. Hopefully that pans out pretty well. But that is at thinkeffective.co. I've got a newsletter idea that I'm floating around called Toolbox Tips, where the idea is you have like 150 word or less tip at the beginning of the newsletter, and then we're just updating on the type of content that we've been putting out here when live streams are upcoming and things of that sort. So be sure to sign up there if you want to get those free updates as well. That's it for the stream today. Lazy Grizzly, we'll hit this one last time. You can keep your structured notes in Notion for sharing. Did that too. It's very good. Yeah, I think that's I just did this today, actually. I put some structured information together and shared it with somebody that I'm working with on something, and it works so well for that. Joshua, thanks for joining on the stream today as well. Everybody, have an awesome week. We'll be back at this, plan on it next week on Thursday. I might do a little bit more work in Logseq, or we might just check on something else as well. But thanks for joining again. In the meantime, though, until I see you next time, stay effective. Take care, everyone.